Hey leaders, are you tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, sometimes even just stuck in a reactive mode? Hey, I'm Dr. Jeff and I'm here to talk about leadership, but more importantly, I'm here to talk about a word that's very important in leadership, and that's this. This important aspect that leads to the success or failure of a leader, and that's mindset. When you think about mindset and how we show up to work every day, we have to have the proper mindset to ensure that we are productive and effective and achieve results. But it takes sometimes, because of the burden of the job of being a leader, it takes sometimes ensuring that when we think about our own mindset, that we have the correct mindset so we can be one that is such a great influencer in our organizations. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I think about mindset and what is mindset, it's really about the way of thinking that shapes us as leaders of how we respond to challenges, decisions, and team dynamics. But there's a couple pillars that I want to talk about in regards to mindset, and that's this. Because one, we can have this type of mindset, and that is a fixed mindset. Or we can have another type of mindset, and that's called a growth mindset. So when I look at fixed mindset, I think about situations where if something happens in our organization, or if we've been there for a long time, there's a risk of becoming complacent with a fixed mindset. There's also a risk in that complacency that we say, that's the way that it's always been. In a growth mindset, we see those things that happen as opportunities to learn, and even when it seems like a failure, we don't quit, which quit is associated with the fix. We actually have a mentality or a mindset that it's an opportunity to learn from it and provide solutions. So there's a couple of pillars there when we think about fixed and growth in the mindset. I also think about another word, and that is this: ownership. How do we own our leadership role? Because if I have good ownership, or I own my leadership role, I'm not going to be in the fixed area. I'm actually going to be more solution-minded and be in the growth area, which means I have ownership of my role, and because of that, I'm going to have a growth mentality. So let's talk about that just a little bit, about being an owner. There's a difference between an owner and a renter. And I look at being an owner as someone that if I own something, if I take ownership of it, I see the value in it. There's a lot of value in what I own. And if I value what I own, I take care of what I own. I want to encourage you today that if you have a growth mindset and you have ownership of your career and your leadership role, that's going to flow to the people that we serve. That's going to bring value to the people that we serve. And so I want to talk about the people that we serve. So when I look at people and we bring value to them, by being an owner, we also provide an example to the people that we serve. And if we're an owner, or we have ownership of our leadership roles and our growth mentality, then that reciprocates, because they will see that example and become owners themselves in our organization. What happens sometimes is we see this: people rent space in the organization. And sometimes they rent space because we are the renters and we have the fixed mindset of our leadership roles, and that trickles to the people that we serve. When I think about the fixed mindset and the renters, when sometimes you own property and somebody rents that property, if they're not an owner mindset, they don't take care of the property they're in. And because of that, there are continued issues with the property because the people renting space don't take care of it. I want to suggest that sometimes employees do the same thing. They rent space in our organizations. And if we're not taking care of that through being an example with a growth mindset, providing great feedback and leading through these situations, we allow renters to stay in our organization We allowed a fixed mindset, and then we wonder why our organization is not moving forward. It's because it's full of renters, and maybe we as leaders are renting ourselves. I want to tell you about this cave mentality. Sometimes when we have people who have a fixed mindset, they have a cave mentality. And cave would mean continuously against virtually everything. You ever had people inside your organization that are just against everything? It's because their mindset is fixed. They rent space in the organization, and then they just don't want change. They can't handle the growth mindset in an organization, and the organization never moves forward. So then we find people stuck in a cave where it's dark and they don't see the opportunities outside. Those are the folks that we need to work with to change their way of thinking. But before they can change their way of thinking, we as leaders must also change our way of thinking sometimes and have a growth mindset. It's important that we become owners in our organization. So let's talk a little bit about how our mindset transforms culture. Culture is a huge word in an organization. Culture can either be that fixed mindset, right? And so when we have a fixed culture, the organization never goes anywhere. Or we can prefer to have a culture that has a growth mindset. The growth mindset allows the ability in organizations to actually come and have a psychologically safe environment to where people will bring ideas. They see areas of improvement. They see areas of opportunities, things to be fixed. Or a fixed mindset is just the same old every day. And that's where the complacency comes in. A growth mindset always is looking for opportunity to improve, if in healthcare, patient care, improve processes, improve systems. In a regular organization outside of healthcare, really the same thing. Improve processes, improve organizations. So we must bring that, and we must have what I want to term today, if we're going to have a growth mindset, is a shift in the way that we think sometimes, and make sure that we're focused on challenging our own mind to have a growth mindset. Your leadership mindset shapes the world. It influences safety and innovation and creates a psychologically safe organization. We should all desire that in our leadership roles. Sometimes, though, it is tough because we go back to here a fixed mindset, and then from that we become renters in our space and lose ownership. I want to encourage us that if we feel like we're losing ownership of our space, or if we're not influencing people, we need to check this to see if our mindset has just become fixed and we've become complacent. Whereas if we shift our mindset to a growth, it influences the culture with a positive impact, and we see our employees also start to shift because we're leading by example. So comment below for me on this video, which mind shift do you want? Which one will you start? Do you have a fixed mind shift or a mindset, or do you have a growth mindset? Let's all commit to having a growth mindset and work together. Comment below on the video, share, like this channel, and give it to other people that need to have a shift in their mindset to a growth. As we serve together, Dr. Jeff.